What's up? I'm here with Matt Squire, multi-platinum Grammy Award nominated producer, writer, acts such as One Direction, Ariana Grande, Panic at the Disco, Underoath. My bad, sorry about that. Matt, how's it going?
It's going great.
Matt, it's
great
really
to be here.
It's so good to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Welcome to Vezt headquarters.
Thank you.
So tell us about who you are. Like, what do you do, and like, how'd you get your start?
Sure. Well, I'm a music producer and songwriter, and really, it's my job to bring out the best in the artists that I work with. So it can be anything from helping finish a song to helping sound design the production, or details like, is the song that the artist wrote in the right key? Can I help with tempo, key, little sort of accents to make the production unique. So that's my main two roles, is writing and production. And I've been very fortunate to, like you said, I've worked with Panic at the Disco, Underoath. I've done a lot of stuff in pop. I've worked with Selena Gomez. I've worked with Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande, 1D. So I have just been very lucky and very blessed.
I've heard of some of those people.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yeah,
so
it's they sound familiar.
It's a really lucky thing to be a part of their careers. I tend to be development oriented, so I'm usually paired with an artist when they're crafting their identity, or when they're rebranding their identity and changing their sound. It's not something that I plan for, and it's not something that artists actually consciously ask me for. It just happens to be that way. It's when a new act like One Direction needs a sound, I got the call. We need a sound for this band. And when Panic at the Disco came to me and hadn't played a show yet, and it was a brand new project, it was like, we really need to craft this identity. So that's a big part of what I'm in it for.
How did you become the sound maker?
Yeah, I don't really know. It wasn't a conscious decision. I just sort of, there's a lot of different kinds of producers and writers out there. A lot of us are, looking to craft that radio single, and I love that part of it too. But my focus is really on, I believe that the artists that do well and sell well and have success are all unique and have figured out what makes them unique and figured out how to celebrate it. And so that's really what I'm laser focused on. And so I guess that's how it sort of evolved, is what my personal tastes are in artistry kind of manifest in the work that I do.
How did you get your first big break? And what was it?
Yeah, it was really luck. All of my breaks have been luck, and then when something lucky happens, I try and just like work my tail off to make it awesome. But I was living in Boston, and a friend's band called The Explosion wanted to record their last EP with me, just as friends. They had these 6 songs they wanted to get done. They were breaking up, and they were going to go on their last tour. And they came to me to record it, and I was like just starting out, and I was like, yeah, sure, this would be great. It's a great first experiment. And so we did the tracks. We didn't get the vocals done, and they had to go on tour, so the plan was to get the vocals done when they got back. But they were kind of broken up. None of them even really wanted to do the recording, so it was really hard to get this thing out of the studio. Fast forward 2 weeks, they're playing what's supposed to be their very last show at Gilman Street in San Francisco, and Green Day was there. And Green Day brought Rob Cavallo and all these labels to the show and said, The Explosion is like gonna be this huge band. And so I got a call from their manager, said, we're not breaking up, and we need to finish this EP really fast, and you need to block out time, and the EP is going to come out either on Virgin Records or Capitol Records. This is literally like my first project I've ever done.
Incredible.
And I was like, okay. You're like, cool. I was like, I can't mix it. I don't know what I'm doing. Get somebody to mix it, right? So we hired, they came in, we finished the album, and we hired this guy, Paul Coldry, to mix it. And Paul is part of a very, very historic and amazing production team named Slade and Coldry, Sean Slade and Paul Coldry. They did Radiohead, Morphine, Hole. I mean, like, amazing. And when we were at the mix sessions, I got to talking to Paul. He was reopening a legendary studio in Boston called Fort Apache, and he was like literally mixing the record and on eBay buying an Eve console. At the same time, he's bidding and mixing, and I just sat back and I just went, man, this is crazy. This is amazing. I'm gonna ask him if he needs a Pro Tools guy, and that's what I did. I said, do you need a Pro Tools guy? And he said, man, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I totally do. I don't want to buy the rig, you know, but I do want somebody to come in and be that guy. So I bought the rig, and I went and partnered with Sean and just with Paul rather, and I just learned so much. I mean, he taught me so much about recording. So that was the first big break, first lucky break. And
did you at any point during that experience think, wow, I'm in over my head, I'm gonna ruin their career? Or did you kind of have enough confidence that
it's both? And this is true of all of us, I think, who are doing creative arts. There were moments where I had those thoughts, you know, and then there were moments where I was like, you know, this is music, and I've been playing guitar since I was 8, and I've, you know, got this sort of long history and knowledge of what records should feel like and sound like and be, you know, how they can feel authentic, and you know, I know my craft, I don't have that experience yet. So it's like kind of both.
So let's say we've got an aspirational musician who's watching this video and they have an opportunity to work with somebody. It could be a career-defining opportunity, let's say. How do you know when you're ready for that, or when you're biting off more than you can chew? And you know, at what point do you say, maybe not, or should I always go for it and learn on the fly?
I mean, I think the message of the new music business is that you're always ready, right? We have a level playing field for the first time that I can ever remember in the music business, where somebody can make a track on their laptop, put it up on SoundCloud, and it can go viral, and it can become a #1 radio single. It has just as much of a shot as a new Beyonce track that she just dropped in the same manner, because we're all releasing the same way. Distribution has become this one-stop thing. So I would say go for it, right? And a lot of younger artists are putting it all out there and getting feedback from fans, and that's amazing.
Yeah, immediate feedback
on SoundCloud or on whatever platform they use, and they can develop their craft and sort of fine tune what they do. I have a number of artists. I like to work in development, and so I have a number of artists who nobody's ever heard of, and they're doing that, and they're getting real fan engagement, and it is awesome.
Incredible.
It's really cool.
If you could tell your younger self before all of this success anything, what would you tell that younger self right now, knowing what you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I was prepared for failure, always. Being prepared for failure is actually kind of easy, you know?
Failing is kind of easy.
It didn't work, right? Oh well, blame somebody. That's failure. I was not prepared for success. I had no idea what that was going to be like.
What does that mean?
It's so much more work.
Because most people think it's easy to be successful. Hey, you're rich, famous, and powerful. How hard could it be?
Totally. And look, that's a total myth. And part of the reason I like being a behind the scenes producer and writer is because, like, quite frankly, sometimes it sucks to be an artist. It's hard work. It's really tough. And like, I've heard stories about, you know, a really famous singer that like goes on vacation and like can't leave their hotel because they're just mobbed at all times. I mean, it's very difficult, and everything you say is scrutinized, and everything you tweet, and it's very difficult.
You can't just go to a Taco Bell,
no,
you know, on a dime.
No, and look, it's not. That's a good problem to have, right? You're famous. That's great, but it is very hard work, and I think for me, being prepared for success or being unprepared for success was, okay, after Panic at the Disco blew up, Fever You Can't Sweat Out. It was like my third project or my fourth project, and it just blew up. It sold 3 million records. It was, okay, well, how do I repeat this? We didn't plan on it.
Mm-hmm.
We just followed our noses and made a record. We didn't know. And now how do I live up to the reputation of being like a multi-platinum producer on my fourth project? Like, it's crazy. So, you know, you have to work twice as hard with every success, because what you typically want to do is repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was, okay, how do I find more projects that have this potential? Because Panic was this genius band, you know, and I brought the best out of them, but they were great artists. So that was obviously lesson one. Find people who are amazing,
mm-hmm.
right? So then it was Boys Like Girls, All Time Low, 303. I was just very fortunate to link up with a lot of the other artists in that scene who did well, and I did the same thing for them, you know, just be there, listen, get to know who is this artist for real, and what kind of risks can they take, and how daring can we be. And, you know, really, I learned how to do the work, which was just so much more than I ever anticipated. Not the technical work of
mm-hmm.
putting up a microphone, but the work of, hey, we've got a great collection of songs here. We don't have a single, you know, do we care? If yes, what kind of single would we actually be cool with? Like,
mm-hmm.
what kind of single can 303 have and still retain their authentic artistry? Like,
mm-hmm.
questions like that I never realized how hard that can
mm-hmm.
be. So, you know, I think if I was going to tell my younger self anything, it would be, yeah, you know, prepare to pick yourself up off the ground when you fail. That's great, but prepare to like put in the hours.
Sure.
If you succeed and have to follow it up.
You brought the best out of Panic in the Disco. How did you do that?
You know, I tend to gravitate towards projects where there's competing influencers in the band. So they had a lot of different ideas in the band. I'd say my biggest role, well, the record wasn't written when they got there, so that was a big part of it. And then taking these sort of diverging personalities and going, all right, we're all working on the same music, we're all working on the same song, and I think we all have the same goal. You see it this way, you see it that way. There's 10 points you're making and 10 points you're making, and I see 3 commonalities. Let's grab those, right? Let's start with that. And if those commonalities make a song, we're done, we're great, and everybody's happy because these are the points that they agreed on. If we're not done, then we start pushing on, you know, okay, well, what were some of those ideas that you had again? Like, let's see what we can do. So I think a lot of the help with Panic was organizing and sort of harnessing that,
mm-hmm.
and just taking this raw talent and going, okay, we have to come together to agree to make the songs a certain way. Beyond that, they didn't have their own style yet. They got signed by Fall Out Boy. They were supposed to sort of be an electronic version of Fall Out Boy, but they weren't satisfied with that, and I wasn't satisfied with that. And so I think one of my other big contributions was I turned them on to Jellyfish. I don't know if you know that band.
I don't.
Jellyfish was like a 90s band, really influenced by the Beatles and Queen. And they made some killer records that didn't really go anywhere. I turned them on to Jellyfish and, you know, De Facto Queen and like
mm-hmm.
a lot of classic stuff. And I was like, let's stylize it with like a retro, some sort of retro Queen stuff that's gonna take you away, a shade away from Fall Out Boy, give you your own unique thing that's not really been done in our style of music, in our scene before. And that's what we did, and we got really obsessed with it. And there's a lot of like outside instruments, like there's strings and, you know, just sort of weird stuff. And from an arrangement perspective, we were really looking at classic rock a lot.
How easy was it to negotiate or kind of nudge them to implement those kind of?
It was easy that was an easy part. that was something we were all really excited about.
Okay.
It was like once we found that sort of like nuance, it was like, wow, this is going to be the thing that separates us. And so we were all really pumped on that. The harder negotiations were, they've written a great song with a great hook, and they'll come to me on Tuesday and say, hey, we rewrote the chorus, and it goes like this now. It's got a hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go like, how do I talk them back into their song, their original song?
Mm.
And that's what I had to do that, usually for an hour, almost every morning, of like, you guys are sabotaging the great song you came in with.
Mm.
And I would say things like, you know, there are other artists out there that would like kill to be able to write your original song that you came in with, right? And there's a million producers who would hustle you and say, oh yeah, what you came in with originally wasn't good, we need to rewrite it. I'm not doing either of those two things. Like, you guys wrote something really great, we need to celebrate it. We need to make sure those hooks are intact.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were able to do, or what I was able to do, was by stylizing it with the Beatlesy stuff and by pushing to retain hooks, it was like, okay, keep that vocal hook. It was great. But because we're stylizing it in this way,
Mm-hmm.
it'll feel more unique to you and you won't have to destroy it.
What advice would you give to new musicians on how to find their thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you find your thing?
It's the same as anything. You have to be yourself. And it's such a cliche, right? We hear it all the time. Be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for some people to do. Some people actually don't really have a sense of like what makes them tick.
Right.
They just like want to be like Drake or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. But like, I can guarantee you everybody's got their own thing
Mm-hmm.
and their own voice and their own style.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing any artist can do is figure out what that is and then flaunt it. That would be my biggest.
And let's say you're a new artist. Back to that again. And you were their manager. What would you want them? What would their workflow look like? What advice would you give them? You need to do this, this, and this.
I mean, I think
In considering today's day and age of technology distribution,
in terms of marketing,
I guess in terms of like overall scope with that included.
First of all, write a song every day, right? When you're just starting
I've
out.
heard this before.
Write a song
Megan
every
Trainor
day.
said that.
Yeah, Megan's great. I've worked with Megan. Write a song every day and grow, right? And it doesn't matter if you know how to record it or whatever. Write it on an acoustic guitar or sing it into your phone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but write a song every day. In terms of then self-promoting, right? It's never been easier, to link up with a service like AWOL or something like that to distribute your music. And I would say go ahead and do that, right? And make videos that are sort of your personality. It doesn't have to have you in the video. It can be like anything, any sort of piece of art that you attach to your music and get on YouTube. Do all that stuff. Road test. Take the feedback. See what people say.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. You can get comments right away. And like,
Mm-hmm. Is there a threat of overexposing yourself in the day of social media? Too much YouTube, too much Instagram.
So
you're giving away too much of the
so-
secret sauce.
So like, my school of thought, being older, right, was that there was always like this feeling you have to roll your songs out on a red carpet, you have to do all this setup and whatever. I'm pretty sure all that's gone. If you really look at like even how Justin Bieber got big or something like that, it's like this younger generation is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're shamelessly self-promoting, and they're just hustle and hustle and hustle and hustle until they have followers, and it works. I say chase that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shameless self-promotion was not part of my upbringing and like my musical upbringing. We didn't do that then. It was frowned upon. You have to have your manager do it, and representation and all this stuff.
Everything was like a highly orchestrated rollout and a launch.
Yeah, it's
Very
not really-
strategic.
Not like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like sink or swim, right? And the internet will tell you whether you've got something or not. And I've seen it a million times. Throw a song out there, and if it's really awesome, it'll cook. And if it's not, all the rollout in the world wouldn't have helped you.
Sure. Let's talk about the current like trends and insights related to publishing and labels. Is it critical? Is signing to a label the be all end all?
You know, it's not, and we've seen examples of like artists on AWOL or artists going through TuneCore or SoundCloud and getting these amazing results, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to do that than ever, but signing to a label has also been better than ever, right? And major labels are savvy. They know how to market, right? And they know how to work radio, and they really know how to break artists. There's really nobody better.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look at somebody who's come up through SoundCloud and be like, that's the new model, right? And then you can look at somebody who's on Universal Republic and be like, that's still the model. I don't know. I think it's all of the above. I think it's like whatever path takes you. You know, I think signing to a label, if you have a huge internet profile, is exciting now, because you know I have worked with artists that had like 6 million followers already before they entertained a label offer. Like they're like making money. Like your YouTube channel, if you got 6 million followers, like you're making more money than you do on your first year or second year on a major label. So what it's done is it's forced people to come to the table and make unique deals, which we really need in this industry. You know, co-op deals or just unique terms or stuff that's a little bit more based on streaming, because like a lot
They're coming in with leverage.
Yeah, and I think that is what changes precedent. So you know, I think personally, I think that there is a trusted marketing system in major labels that is awesome, that totally works. And if an artist has that opportunity, amazing. If not, it used to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a professional musician, right? Now it's like, just go find another channel. You know, you got another way to get big. You can, you know, I have an artist that I work with that they're just really interested in advertising in sports syncs. So they've put it on themselves. They don't even have a manager, and they put it on themselves to reach out and meet musical directors and marketing directors of all of these companies. Right?
It's actually pretty smart.
Oh, it's amazing.
Very targeted.
Oh, it's amazing. And in so doing, they got one of their songs in the Super Bowl. It was also in the World Cup.
Incredible.
And the Olympics.
Wow.
And
that's
it was
incredible.
All from cold emailing and calling. It's really cool. So, you know, it's a really cool business right now. The old channels, the traditional channels are working better than ever. There's new channels popping up every day.
So tell me about Vezt. How did you meet Vezt? What is your relationship with Vezt?
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my good friend Randy Nichols, who manages Underoath, introduced me to the company. Said sounds like something that you might be into. My big trip right now, and what I'm hyper focused on, is in streaming, in the new music business. Royalties are not coming in the way we all would hope. And
why are they not?
There's so many different factors, and we could get in the weeds.
Okay.
But essentially, like, a lot of the music services are making deals with like T-Mobile and Sprint and whatnot to really give you music for free. And consumers seem to want their music to be free.
Sure.
Right? They don't want to take away from their favorite artists consciously, right? But you get a phone, it comes with 6 months free Apple Music, and you're like, this is great, you know? And there's not really a product anymore. So what really needs to happen in the music business is we need to find a way to turn the works into commodities and find a way to value the content in a new paradigm, right? Companies like Vezt, who are offering an investment type of model where fans can actually own a piece of a royalty bearing work, offer us a whole new and revolutionary way to commoditize that work. And I'm convinced that commoditizing the works is the only way forward. That's the only leverage that the music business has to keep our royalties up and to keep our value up, right? Is right now in the current music business, the value of catalogs, it's all perceived value. Mm-hmm. It's not exact. So if Verizon wants to bundle Apple Music and Apple Music wants to say yes, they set the terms, they set the rates, and they come back to the catalog owners, which they license the content from, and they go, yeah, this is the deal, take it or leave it. The catalog owners go, well, we think our catalogs are worth X. And Apple and Verizon go, well, we think our user base is worth Y. Mm-hmm. So who cares about your X? And can you show me any data? And the music business current model says, not really. Like, we have Taylor Swift in our catalog, we know she's worth a lot, but we can't really put like a dollar and cent value on it. Mm-hmm. So when you get to that conversation, that crucial conversation of how much is the subscription price, it's the only product we sell right now, mm-hmm. You need better leverage, you need better data, you need your works to be commoditized, you need to be able to say, look, this song is worth X on this trading platform and that trading platform and this trading platform. Investors are going crazy for it, right? That's a new metric that we've never had in the music business before, and that gives us a lot more power to go back to Apple and Verizon and go, yeah, you're not getting our catalog for X, you're getting our catalog for Y. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, we're off your platform. Mm-hmm. We'll just stay on Spotify. No thanks. So that's really what I want to see, and I think companies like Vezt are really onto that new metric. It's a new business, right? The consumer wants that music to be free. That music isn't free. The mm-hmm. content's more valuable than ever. It's driving advertising revenue all over the place, right? So how do we put value onto that content? And investor-based platforms, I think, are the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of talk about how newer artists could get onto Vezt, and then when you have supporters who buy into your song, let's say you've got 10,000 supporters, they may help promote your actual work, kind of like a record label. Mm-hmm. Record label used to give you an advance, and then their job was to promote you, right. Market you, and now you're crowdsourcing that. And now your fans directly could do that. Mm-hmm. In an age of influencers and social media, that can be very intrinsic.
Absolutely. It's kind of like, what I liken it to is the street team concept, right? Back in the day, we used to have these things, street teams. And they were the guys who would go out and put up huge posters of the bands when they were coming to town and all that stuff, right?
Everywhere.
And you have a street team in every city. Well, we all communicate on the internet every day. We're all connected more than ever. So it's like the concept of Vezt and the concept of early adopters being able to actually help market. That's street teaming. Mm-hmm. And they're street teaming on social media, which is so valuable. So yeah, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity there. I would highly recommend it for a new artist.
Awesome. It was great meeting you. Loved having this conversation, getting to know you, and good luck with everything.
Great meeting you as well. Thanks so much, Jin.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.